So I do have a couple of initial questions that I just need to get out of the way. So what's your ages at the moment? How old are you roughly?
I'm 35 and you're 31.
What do you guys do for a living?
I'm a what, tax accountant and you're in.
I'm in technology space. I work with Vodafone.
Mm.
Am I right in saying you guys just purchased one property for now, right?
With you guys, yeah.
Yes, with us. Yeah, perfect. And
Yeah.
remind me again, where did you actually hear about us from? How did you know about us?
Through it was either recommendation or professional Asian. It was through
One of
them.
the
Okay.
one of the
Yeah.
two Facebook groups.
The Facebook group.
And previous to this buy-to-let that you purchased with us, did you have any other buy-to-let experience?
No, you were our first, yeah.
No.
Perfect.
And so often when we talk about like personal finance and stuff, right? It always ends up being like, oh, well, I made a massive gain here and here and
Yeah,
here and
yeah,
here. And
yeah.
you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like this person is such an expert. But
Yeah.
knowing that mistakes do get made, right? On the like
Yeah.
I along my way, invested like with a friend and lost now I think it's like about 20 grand.
Yeah. Friends and
And
money.
like
Oh,
yeah, and literally hefty, what's it called? The most expensive lesson I've ever learned in my life, right? But and I mean
it's because you
actually so the
lost the
guy's in
money,
jail
but you lost
now.
the friend as well.
It wasn't he actually took money from a lot of people
Yeah, I
and
imagine.
basically, yeah, it was like saying that so he was genuinely a trader, but I think he got caught up
Yeah.
in stuff. And
Yeah.
the what's it called? The returns he was claiming he could get I'm sure he could if he put his head down, but he got caught up in like the rich boys club
Yeah.
basically. And then I
Yeah.
think he ended up basically running a Ponzi scheme.
Oh no.
And so I got caught in that. So now, like, so two of his ex-friends, they actually took him to court and everything,
Yeah.
and they filed a civil suit against him, and now he's actually in jail. So like nobody's getting any money. But I
Yeah.
remember when like the guy was like in such denial about what he'd done to people because I remember he
Yeah.
would send me messages from like forward messages from other people because
Yeah.
I tried to
Yeah.
keep it sweet in a hope that I would get
Of
my money
course.
back, right? And he would send me some messages where like people would basically say like we invested our entire life savings with you
Yeah.
and stuff, and he was like the responses he would give to them were like so arrogant and like when it's like universe is going to teach you a lesson, mate, honestly,
Yeah.
like the way you're talking to these people like I didn't do anything to you, da, 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 da. Like so no, and I always think in my head like this is literally like that has been such a turning point for me where I am like
Yeah.
always thinking I'm never going to do something like that, but plus also now I'm going to make all that money back and more kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
And like I said, that was so hard because you lost the money, but you also lost the friend as well. It's like, and not, I say lost a friend. What I mean is, you lost a little bit of trust in people. It's
yeah,
actually really difficult.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
100%. Like if now the thing is, like if we have family or friends who ask
Yeah,
us for money,
yeah,
I'm like, I don't even care what I come across as. I'm like,
yeah.
I
No.
have the lesson, right, to
Yeah,
learn.
yeah.
Like, I just like, if you want to come to me with a business plan, blah, 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 and we treat this like it's a,
Investment. Yeah,
not taking advantage of anybody's situation, then that's a whole different conversation. But if this is like, come on, let's do mates rates type thing, I'm like, no, I'm not
I
getting involved
I
in
I
any
have
of that.
that. I have that often. People do ask me. I loan money from time to time. People ask me
Mm,
all the time, especially when it's family. I don't often loan to family, but when it's family, there's a guy that I follow. I can't remember what his name is now, but he has one rule. This is like a mega multi-billionaire or whatever, and people come and ask him for money, obviously family members and stuff. And he says, I only have one rule, and the rule is, it's not that I won't lend to family. What it comes down to is if someone asks me for money, so he's a billionaire. Someone asks him for 100 grand. He'll say, "You're of my family. I want to support you. I'm gonna do this for you. I'm gonna give you the 100 grand on one condition. What's the one condition? You never ask me for money ever again. So I'm not gonna loan it to you. I'm gonna give it to you.
gift it,
Because the fact is, but as soon as you loan to a family member, you've got to just assume it's gone because you're not going to break
Yeah.
that relationship. So I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to accept I'm never getting it back. I don't know if you guys know, we take your money as a lump sum, but we don't bank your money on day one. We take your money as a lump sum. We put 30% in our account, as in our money, because you paid 30%, and that keeps the business running. 30% of it gets banked when we find your property, and then 40%, the majority of it gets banked when we complete on the property. Because ultimately,
Okay.
let's imagine we don't complete on the property and now I have to give you your money back. I need to make sure that I've got enough money to give you the money back. So basically, the money all sits in kind of like a client account, let's call it, and then we just take it down in these kind of installments. And people say, oh, well, can I not just pay in those installments? And I was like, no, I don't want to keep asking you for money. Just pay once, it goes into the account. And, you know, interest rates are crap. It's not like I'm making money on the money. It's just sitting there. But the point is, I want to ask from you for once, but then we want to bank it slowly so that there's always money there to give back to clients if they ever want to. Not, and even in our terms and conditions, we just changed our terms and conditions to say, if you pull out, then we get to keep 30% rather than get to keep 500, £1,000, whatever it was before. We're never flipping in bullshit. Like, if you pull out, we pull out, we'll give you your money back. That's the end of it, right? But I just want to make sure the money's there to give back. But that is an important lesson.
Yeah.
It's these losses
Well,
that you learn from, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, what
Yeah.
problem were you trying to solve by investing in property?
Wanted to be smart about money. We wanted our money to make money. We wanted to have a passive income stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also wanted to know that, like, you know, basically now, whatever happens, we've created generational wealth. Even if we like lose our jobs
Yeah.
tomorrow, for
Exactly.
example, like
Yeah.
we created generational wealth that's paying for itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And why was that, all of that stuff important to you? One, why was it important for you to work, you know, to be smart with your money, to create a passive income stream, to create this generational wealth?
Well, because you're never gonna retire in a happy way if you just depend on the state or like the government, basically. That's one.
Secondly, we do want to retire early.
Yeah,
Not
or at least we
work,
work optional
not work
early.
until 60 or 65 in a corporate setting. And third, I think we want, not I think we're sure that we want to give our son, our future kids, to that option that they don't necessarily have to go down the corporate route.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have the resources, the means, the base basically to give them a good start in life, and then they can choose to not follow the Asian prophecy, let's say.
Yeah, like thrive versus survive, right? Situation, basically, that we've all.
Okay, cool. So they can choose to basically not have to work for money, I suppose. That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
like working out of necessity versus
Yeah.
working, not like for your passions. I don't buy into
Yeah.
all of that, but like, you know what I mean? Just be able to do something you actually enjoy doing.
Sorry,
rather
hold on,
than-
hold on. Did you just say you don't buy into the working for your passions thing? What was that about?
No, okay, wait. I am okay, in a nutshell, because I'm conscious of your time, but I just feel like if my son is in a situation where he's like, okay, I have really good like fundamental in place
Yeah.
that whatever happens, he can fall back on. Because I think it's a lot easier in life to take certain risks, providing you've got the building blocks, and your building blocks is not mommy and daddy's parachute, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, because the thing is, I think part of thriving in life is
Securing the
overcoming that.
downside.
Exactly.
You can't be
like,
free
actually-
until you create the security. That's how I found it. I wanted free.
Exactly.
The whole point of property was like create freedom, but I couldn't get freedom until I had security. Once I have security, and like now I have this money coming in every single month, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like I never need to worry about that anymore. Now I can be free. I suppose that's what you're saying.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I listened to this podcast like a year ago. It was when I was on maternity leave, and it's these two brown girls, and they're talking about like all sorts of stuff to do with life and brown culture and things. Anyway, like one of the girls, she was saying she doesn't have kids herself, but she was talking about her niece and nephew, and she was saying even though like for her, she's totally following her passions in life, like she's got a whole career in media and things like that, and she's like, it doesn't pay super well, but if my nephew came to me and he was like, you know, like auntie or whatever, like I want to become a guitarist or whatever, and she would say to him like, here's what my advice would be to you, like go and do, you know, I don't know, like a degree in engineering or something like that, so that even if this doesn't work out, and maybe spend some years, because that like maybe a few years, it gives you like a whole different life perspective, like you don't know.
Absolutely.
But one way or another, then you can go and follow your passion, and if it doesn't work out, you know that you can always fall back on something. And I think it's a lot easier to also back yourself
Yeah.
when it's not out of desperation.
And
when
I
you're
suppose
not like, it has
when you have
to work.
some, when you have, there's definitely that, but there's also a lot easier to back yourself when you have some confidence in your own ability. So if you're an engineer, for example, you're like, well, cool, exactly like you're saying, I have something to fall back on, but I also know that I have engineer skill set, which I know are valuable in this world that we live in, whereas guitaring skill sets may not be necessarily as valuable.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry. So that's what I meant by like be passionate, but
Yeah, because I was
don't
like,
do it
what? Don't
blindly.
follow your passions. What are you talking about? Cool. What was the reason that you chose to invest outside of London?
London prices are insane. I think also like it's a more palatable amount when you're starting out in this game, right?
Also, we won't be
Yeah.
able to save all that down payment if it was London to begin with.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah.
not.
I think that it would have
Actually,
been
we
much
talked
like
about the fact that that with London, it's almost like, let's say, for example, you had £100,000 or £150,000, but you needed 200. So you're saying, great, I'm going to save this extra money until I can afford London. But whilst you're saving, the property prices are going up, and all of a sudden, it's like you're just caught in that trap where you never have enough.
Exactly. You just
Okay.
I think we were at a point where I remember when we were talking about doing the buy to let, right? And we were like, we basically set ourselves a deadline. It wasn't like the whole situation has to be perfect. It was like, okay, whatever we have, we're gonna do it by the like 31st December 2023. And then we started the process of like finding a business like yourselves to basically work with, etc., etc. And we just needed like, almost like an imperfect situation
Yeah.
to get us on the road to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And well, yeah, we obviously found that. If it had been like, if you'd said to us, oh, we only do London, we wouldn't have gotten going.
Have you heard that say, it says, start now and get perfect later?
Absolutely.
And that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I feel like since we started the property thing, like we've already been like stock market investors for a while, but that's like long-term thing, right? As opposed to it's different from property. And it's only when we started doing the property like I really understood and was glad that, for example, we became stock market investors before we like fully understood anything. We still did it even though we knew we didn't understand. Because even with property, like you're never going to understand everything, but the idea is to learn kind of as you go along, and also like leverage other people's expertise, right? And I think that's how this has worked really well as a result.
Yeah, and it's because, I mean, let's face it, you just can't be an expert in everything, can you? Like that's just how the world is, and
exactly.
But and I think what you guys probably have, in fact, I think you guys have both done this very well, because of the due diligence that you do, etc. I tell my mum all the time that when your accountant tells you to do something, you don't just go and do it. When your solicitor tells you to go and do something, you don't just go and do it. All these people are just advisors for you. You take the information, but you have to be the person that analyzes the information and makes the decision. Don't just do something because someone's telling you to do it. I think you guys are very good at that. You say, let me go and like take the information in, but then we're going to make the decision. So that makes sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So then moving on to what you just said, we were looking for a service like you. So what made you choose our service then in the end?
Okay, so I guess my answers are like I really wanted to work with like South Asian owned business.
Yeah.
That was massive for me. I wanted to work with somebody who kind of like made me feel like they got our situation as well. Like we're not, big time like millionaire property wheeler dealer people at all. Like this was our first thing, and it was like an amount that is important to us, right? And we wanted and I think that was probably like the prevailing feeling that we probably had throughout the process as well. And I think with a lot of our decision making and our question asking, etc., it was underpinned by that fact. At least for me, that's what I felt like. I wanted to just work with somebody who made me basically feel comfortable. Like, look, we do, it doesn't matter big or small or whatever, the amount you're doing is important because it's all subjective and it's important to you, which is why it's important to us, kind of thing. So that's
and regardless, even objectively, it is a big amount, isn't it? Like the fact is, you're spending anything more than £1,000, you're still spending money that you've spent ages
I
working
always
to
say
save.
this, like £100 to me is materials. This was definitely material.
It's material. You know why it's material? Actually, this is a really important point. The reason why it's important is because, like you said, even with the engineer, in order to earn that £100, you have had to put your time into. You have to work, but there's only one thing that you can't get back, which is time. So you're literally trading something that you can never ever get back for that money. So of course, there's value associated with it.
Exactly.
One thing that you said, which was actually really interesting, you said it kind of, I can't remember the exact word, but you said basically something along the lines of like, this is really important to us because obviously, like, we're on this like financial journey or something like that. But you're not. You're on this journey of life. Like I can see with both of you, you guys have got, and I think we talked about this perhaps. I can't remember. It was a long time ago now. That you've both got super aligned about like where your goals are, and there is a finance element to it, but this is your life goals, isn't it? It's like we're going to do this, we're going to have a kid at this point, we're going to retire at this point, we're going to live our life like this. This is your entire life, and the finances kind of just underpin that. So you are making these decisions about effectively your entire life, and if we live by the virtue that you only get one life, then of course it's the most important decision you're ever going to make, isn't it?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's probably, like, I think me being on maternity leave the last year, all of the stuff that we've done, like that this point about us being so aligned, like we literally have, like, you could put it on an Excel sheet what our plan is. And it's like, I think you have to have, especially if you want to be like retiring early and stuff like that, right? You have to be on the same page with your partner if you've got a partner involved. But also, we're like, we only want to work with people who are aligned with making this happen.
Yeah.
Because we're going to make it happen no matter what.
Oh, I love that behavior. I love that attitude of like, yeah, exactly that. Like nothing's stopping me. I'm gonna go and do this, and that's why I said you're a challenge person. Do you know what I mean? I said earlier.
Oh yeah, 100%.
When someone tells you you can't do it, you're like, okay, just watch me.
Yeah. And actually, we complement each other really well, because this guy is like, I do think I've got pretty good attention to detail. Like he's nuts. He's like a whole different ball game when it comes to attention to detail. So like literally, like all the contracts and stuff like that. I think we originally thought that like, oh, we wouldn't, I don't know. I think we thought that we wouldn't check them. We wouldn't have time to check them. And then he ended up just finding like a whole level of passion in, reviewing all of it.
Yeah.
I think that one of the also very useful and helpful things about having people that actually like pay attention, let's say like you guys, it means that you can find these let's call them little bugs, little flaws, like when you're doing software testing, only the people that press all the buttons can find the flaws, right? You press all the buttons and now you found the flaws, and it's like, great, tell us, because now we can say, obviously on our side we're going to evaluate and say, okay, is this something that is really an issue? And then secondly, are other people going to have it? Thirdly, is it work, like is it cost effective for us to go and fix it, or is it just something we're going to bear with? And if it, by the way, if it's not cost effective, then what we will do if it's not cost effective, fix it. I can't think of an example, but we would just say, okay, but let's make the client aware that this could happen, so at least they know that it could happen and that we don't have a cost effective solution, but it could happen. So there's lots of there's a process for how we kind of deal with all the feedback, but yeah, definitely send it over and we can have a look through that.
You know what? We did actually really enjoy the process. Akshat was a lot more hands-on in 100%. Comparison to me, just because I was on mat leave and then I went back to work and stuff. So Akshat was the one who was like speaking to Lucy. I think we both said to each other, like, if we do another property with you guys, like actually Lucy is the one we would love to work with again, because obviously like we know each other's styles, or like they know each other's styles more than anything now.
Absolutely.
And just
what you don't know is that Lucy used to work for a friend of mine and I stole her.
Oh really?
I wonder her, she's amazing.
I feel quite
confident
now for going forwards for the next one for sure. And we understand
that's a really good point.
Now we know that, okay, no, if an email comes in from your team, for example, we can't sit on it for 2 days, because to be honest, yes, we did that as well in the beginning with regards to the mortgage one, and did miss out on one of the deals. So now I know that we can't do that. We need to act on it straight away.
We've gone a little bit the opposite way, but which characteristics of our service did you most value?
I think having like really specific characteristics. I would say like that WhatsApp group was great. Like having the different people in it as well, so like you only have one place that you need to just put your message.
For sure.
I think having like being in like regular contact with Lucy was really good.
On the phone or on the WhatsApp group?
But both, to be honest, both. Like she was always available for calls.
She would always be available for calls.
I think, you know what, like overarching, what I would say, like when we were going into the process, I don't think like we knew we needed somebody to help us with the full process, but even at that time, like we didn't understand the terminology for it. Like the whole end-to-end project management, right? Like you literally see us from the idea of buying property to like getting keys and tenants,
Yeah.
etc., etc. I didn't even know until I came across you guys. I didn't even know such a
That
service
exists.
existed.
Do you know, I say
Right?
to people all the time, I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he goes, "Oh, you should, differentiate your service by doing this." And I said, "You don't understand. Our clients, they want to invest in property. They know they should invest in property, but until they come across us, they don't even know that a service like this exists."
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And this is actually one of the things I wanted to talk to you about as part of this call as well. Or like, yeah. But yeah, so it's like a really overarching thing, and I don't know if it's like not a really helpful thing to say, but literally that service that you guys offer, I feel like we just valued it fully.
Yeah.
Because I think like also one thing is you come across people who like, for example, they'll help with like sourcing, and then they
Yes.
pass you on and you still have to basically project manage it yourself.
Yeah.
But the whole like end to end and
Yeah.
having another set of eyes and stuff like that, because I think that the truth is with us, we'll always be the type of people who do need to like cast our eyes over the contracts and
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
and this. But yeah, just having someone who had the view of everything from the beginning to the end, that was really helpful. Like it really did feel like you were working in a team of people rather than us just going at it alone.
Yeah.
I always say, I don't know if I said it to you guys when you signed up, one of the criteria for the clients that we select, because you select us, but we select you as well in the sense, is we say, you have to work with us as partners. We're partners. We're trying to achieve the same goal. It's not a supplier-client relationship, because a supplier-client relationship says, I'm paying you, go do it for me. And of course, whilst that is ultimately the case, but it's like, but we're in a partnership and we're trying to achieve, so we're going to work together. You've got to do your bits, we've got to do our bits, and we're going to try and do what we can.
The fact Lucy's availability, that was really great. I think also like having her to talk things through, like no question was too simple or too, like this is a really basic thing. We never felt that we couldn't ask her stuff. Yeah, I think that's probably that's actually a bigger point than I'm making it seem like. Having somebody who recognizes that you're new to this process and doesn't make you feel stupid for asking really
Right,
basic
yeah.
questions, right? Like that's really important. And also doesn't talk in jargon, because I think that like when you're in anything and you're like an expert in that field, like people forget that everyone's not an expert in that field. So yeah, those are probably the main characteristics I would say that we found really valuable. So learned loads along the way. I think it like really helped shape our like the whole personal finance. But as I say, like I think that we've gone through a complete honestly, like in the last 1 year, like gone through a total like mindset shift when it comes to money and making money work for us and things like that. And the truth is this process was like a critical
I
part
remember
of
I remember
it.
having this conversation with you, and I think and it is a long time ago, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was like the first one. You were super nervous, or certainly you were like, yeah, it's the first one, it's got to work. And
Yeah.
basically you were saying to me, Shiv, if this doesn't work, like, and I knew this because I know other people do this, if this doesn't work, then my outlook on investments in general is going to be tainted, and it's going to be like, I don't know if I want to do another property. And I think that's why I think that we're really important, outside of like the fact that we give you a property and all that stuff, is that if you go to somebody else, for example, and you have a challenging time, or something goes wrong or whatever, then literally like you will never invest in another buy-to-let property, because you'll just be like,
Oh my
forget
God,
that asset class.
100%. And also like for at least for me, actually not as much, but for me, like my family are not property investors at all.
Yeah.
And like the property investment stuff that they've done in the past, like hasn't necessarily been like a joyful experience. So I always grew up with that. Whereas I think Akshat's experience is slightly different, where he always knew that like property was where it's at, but it was just having enough funds to actually make that happen.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but I mean, basically like property is 100% in terms of the strategy for like our personal finance. It's the short term, the bit that basically, like where you say buy a property to take over like branches of your daily spend, right? So like this property pays for our
Yeah,
mortgage,
exactly.
this
Yeah.
property
Yeah.
like pays for our rent, this property pays for like a car, whatever. Like that's basically what we're trying to do. And that's the reason why this first journey, it's like your first teacher at school, right? It really shapes how you look at education. So it's the same thing. Like I think if this had been
Yes.
painful, we would have been like, oh, okay, well, now we need to go back to the drawing board and think like, how do we do this instead of property type thing.
I am jumping around, but please like forgive me on this.
No.
The question about like, well, now what and what happens next, and not just about now what, but like initially, like for the last few years, for a while, we've been saying to people, you know, buy this property, it's going to be great, and you're going to get this, you know, £4,000 a year from it. And people are like, yeah, that's great, but I'm putting in like 60 grand. I want to get 4 grand a month. Like, it's really just doesn't sound appealing. And now what we're saying to people is, okay, here's the story. Sanskriti, listen to this. And I'm going to use 3 properties because it just illustrates it better. You buy 3 properties today, that's going to set you £200,000. Okay, so you've got to have £200,000 to start with. But if you buy 3 properties today, you'll get your £4,000 or whatever the number is a month. Sorry, a year for the first few years. But then at the end of year 5, your property prices will also have gone up, and then you can refinance them at the end of year 5. So you'll have 3 here, but we've worked out the numbers, and the numbers say that when you refinance, you'll take the rental return that you've got plus the refinance money, and you'll have enough money here to be able to probably buy 3 more properties without any more of your own money. Now, imagine that I'm completely wrong and you've got to put in, I don't know, 10 grand a property or 15 grand a property. It's like, well, I still got now 6 properties with an extra like 45 grand. So now you've got 6 properties. Okay, cool. Let's wait another 5 years. And at the end of year 10, we can do the same process again, but now we have enough money to buy another 6 properties. So we can actually buy 12 proproperties in the space of 10 years. At the end of year 10, 12 properties, each one gives me £500 a month net. So that's 12 times 500. God,
60 grand, right?
72 grand, 6 grand a month, which is 72 grand a year of passive income, and that will basically pay for your life. And then you can say, great, I can do what I want, because 72 grand is usually enough to pay for like most people's kind of like basic living expenses. That's how you build a portfolio. Not least, remember, this is £72,000 a year, but then you also have the fact that the value of the properties is like whatever it is at that time. You know, it's going to be 12 times, I don't know, say 300 grand. Like, it's
at
a
least
decent
100
portfolio.
grand, right? Yeah.
It's
exactly.
it's 150 when you buy them, let's say. So in a space of 10 years, you expect it to, let's say, double. So it's gone to 300 multiplied by, you'll have 12 of them, isn't you? So it's going to be that you're going to have a lot of properties, plus you're going to have the income coming in, and that's how you build a portfolio over time. Because people are always like, well, what's the point of buying one? I'm like, you're not buying one. This is the process. You've got to go through the whole thing.
So we definitely know. So we're not in the camp of people who are like, oh, you've got to put 60k up front, but you're only getting 4 grand a month. We're definitely not. Like, we're 100% sold on the property stuff. I think realistically speaking, in our situation, especially with having the baby, I can't see us being in a situation where anytime soon we've got like 200k to be able to put up. Right.
But even if you do one, so the thing is, you do one, you end up with, at the end of year 5, you'll have 2. At the end of year 10, you'll have 4. That's 4 times 5 is 2,000.
Exactly.
What 3 words would you use to describe lifestyle property people?
Friendly.
Or our service? Yes.
What's a single word for like, okay, like knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Friendly, knowledgeable, and freedom.
Freedom.
It's more like the feeling I get from the process as opposed to the people, you know, but I do personally associate it. Yeah,
well, you said earlier it's about creating generational wealth for yourself, isn't it? So that's cool.
Exactly.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this before Akshat comes back, because I'm going to ask him the same question as well. We ask every single client the same question, and they always typically tend to say the same 3 words, similar to what you've said. One is friendly or approachable. They're both similar words. The other one is transparent, and the third one is professional or knowledgeable. Or expertise. Like, those are all kind of similar kind of words that say, like, we know what we're doing. You're very friendly and approachable, but then the other one is also like, we understand, like, you're here for us and you're transparent, you'll give us all the information, and we'll give you all the information, all that. And it's funny because I used to have this list of, like, you know, as you grow a business, you're like, these are the values of the business, and it's like, those aren't the values. The values of the people, like, when people tell you these are the words and they tell you over and over again, like, those are ultimately our values.